now listening to the Zay Moore podcast.
I want to know what Zay thinks
There's a
about
few
that.
things that we got to address.
Black people got the swag. Black people set the trends. We are the culture. We got a reality star for our president. It's insane. Even if they try to erase black history out of schools, it's not going to erase black history. Because we've been here. Kendrick Lamar definitely beat Drake in that battle. Hands down. At the end of the day, I'm going to keep it real with my people. Because if we don't keep it real with each other, who will?
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Zay Moore, and I want to welcome you back to a brand new episode of the Zay Moore podcast. Yes, today is September 11th, guys, and we got something to unpack. We have a few things to talk about today. I'm sure you guys have heard about the unfortunate killing of conservative Charlie Kirk. He was gunned down in front of thousands, and the nation is left asking why. Who pulled the trigger? And is this death symbolic? Is it a distraction? There's a huge divide, and we're going to get into some of the things he said and why people might feel the way they feel. I definitely want to connect the two. We got to connect the dots. So with that being said, we won't waste too much time on the intro. Y'all know who I am. Y'all know what I do. Are y'all ready to dive into this topic today? Sounds like y'all are ready. Thank you for your attentiveness, as always. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Yesterday, September 10th, 2025, around 12:20 p.m. at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, an event hosted by Turning Point USA called the American Comeback Tour, with Charlie King doing a Prove Me Wrong debate Q&A setup was taking place. Reports are saying there was about 3,000 people there, so pretty packed crowd. Kirk was apparently answering a question during the Q&A about mass shootings, specifically asking how many such shootings in the past 10 years were committed by transgender people. His exchange, when asked, do you know how many mass shooters there have been? He asked, including or not including gang violence, just moments before being shot. A single shot fired from a rooftop about 200 yards from the stage. Kirk's position, using a high-powered bolt-action rifle, is how this was set up. Kirk was hit in the neck, transported to hospital, pronounced dead later that afternoon. Law enforcement recovered what they believe is the weapon, the bolt-action rifle we just talked about, from a wooded area near the campus. They do have CCTV footage of a suspect, footwear impressions, palm prints, and even forearm imprints being analyzed. So the investigation is vastly going on as we speak. I do have some footage. I want to go ahead and play this, guys, the audio for you. Due to the sensitivity of it, I am going to stop it before the gunshot takes place. But yeah, I do want to go ahead and play this to give some context to the situation. Go ahead and listen to this, and then we'll be right back.
So do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
All right, and that is the moment where the gunshot rang out right there. Again, we stopped it due to the sensitivity. Definitely a lot to unpack here. So for starters, I just want to give you a little bit about him, because a lot of people surprisingly had never heard of him. And it's unfortunate that, a lot of people are learning about him through some of the problematic things that he said. So who is Charlie Kirk? Well, his full name is Charles James Kirk. He was born October 14, 1993, making him 31 at the time of his death. He's from the Chicago suburbs. He was a right-wing political activist, author, public speaker, and media personality. He co-founded Turning Point USA in 2012 with Bill Montgomery when he was around 18. The organization focuses on mobilizing conservative students, campus activism, opposing what they view as liberal indoctrination, etc. So he briefly attended Harper College, a community college in Palatine, Illinois. He did not complete a degree, so he dropped out after one semester to focus fully on political activism. And there are no reports right now that this has anything to do with it, but he was a MAGA supporter. He was very closely aligned with the MAGA movement, Trump's conservative base, yada, yada. Several sources actually confirm him as a Trump ally. He promoted causes and positions that overlap a lot with MAGA-style politics, opposition to what he saw as wokeness, emphasis on conservative social values, strong support for the Second Amendment, criticism of liberal education, etc. Also, Turning Point USA under his leadership was active in campaigns to mobilize young people for Trump, and he took public roles in promoting MAGA ideology. So, very strong political stance, very strong political presence that Mr. Kirk had. So many are now asking, well, where does the divide come in, right? Because when anyone dies, the natural response that we look for in humans, or that is expected rather, is, compassion and empathy. That's not what we're seeing in this case. A lot of people are, which in no case you should be celebrating death. It's an unfortunate case, but everyone has to die. It's just the way he died is a bit unfortunate, right? And, I'm just thinking about the kids, I'm all for the kids. I love kids, and I just could imagine what they're going through. And they shouldn't have to suffer because of their father's beliefs, because they're too young to even know what's going on right now. So I'll say that and send some thoughts and prayers to them. However, he was a public figure, and he was a figure that was unapologetically aligned with far-right politics, which in a lot of cases are problematic and controversial. So for supporters, he was seen as bold, but for critics, he was seen as inflammatory. And that's really where the divide starts to come in. Many of his remarks on race, religion, gender identity, and voting rights were seen as offensive or demeaning. So because of this, people view him less as a victim and more as a symbol of rhetoric they found harmful. That's what I'm gathering, and that's what I was able to write down based on everything that I'm seeing. That they're saying it as a symbol of rhetoric that they found harmful. The perception of the hypocrisy around the violence is also something to touch on, right? Kirk was outspoken on gun violence, and he even said that some deaths were worth it to preserve the Second Amendment. After a figure who championed gun freedom dies from gun violence, critics see irony and point it out rather than expressing sympathy. So there is a compilation of some of the things he said that kind of add context to the divide. So I want to go ahead and punch this in for y'all, let y'all take a listen so you can draw your own opinions, and then we'll come back and talk about some of it.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist, okay? I live when I believe. No. What do? I get charity every single year.
Crime, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Because of DEI, it begs the question, when you see a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? It almost creates thought patterns that are not necessarily. No one really cares when it's HR managers. No one cared when it was, just kind of paper shufflers or even engineers. But now when it's like, wait, hold on a second. You're going to remove my appendix and you're a black lesbian.
Yeah, so that was Charlie Kirk, and just a few bits of some of the right-winged influenced things he said, while he was here. I do want to correct a few things, because a lot of what he was saying, I do find incorrect. And I also find that it's similar to what our president is doing, right? Ignoring the numbers, ignoring the facts, and just spewing out a bunch of bullshit and stuff that is inaccurate, and is baseless, based on the information that we do have. And I do want to say again, right, it's unfortunate because we don't want to remember someone like this. This is not, but when we're talking about people in media, and this is similar to the conversation we had around Hulk Hogan, unfortunately, the things that you say and the things that you do is going to be a bit more impactful versus just an everyday person. You feel me? So this is what we have to remember you by. And it's just not the best thing. You feel me? Especially being a proud capitalist, living your day-to-day life as a capitalist, like you said. And as we all know what capitalists stand for, right? There's no togetherness in the world of capitalism. Everything is solely I invest, I get money back. You know, it's kind of putting one class up and one class down. So let's start there. Secondly, a lot of his comments to me were suggesting that black people kind of get the upper hand when it comes to DEI, or we benefit more from DEI, which I don't find to be true, because actually several pieces of research suggest that white women have actually disproportionately benefited in many cases from DEI efforts, right? So they're often the first group of people to see upward mobility when gender is the focus of DEI, before race, ethnicity, intersectional issues are fully addressed. You white, you a woman, you're benefiting from DEI. So that's a double-edged sword too, because yes, DEI is supposed to be a movement to support women, people of color, LGBTQ folks, people of racial and ethnic minorities, people with disabilities, anyone who's historically been excluded from any certain group of opportunities. That is what DEI is supposed to be about. You know, it aims to reduce barriers. But for him to just suggest that, oh, you know, because of DEI, you know, when I see a black pilot, I'm wondering if they're qualified. If that is not problematic, I don't know what is. You feel me? And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you know, he's not here anymore, so what he said doesn't matter. It does, because there's a million more Charlie Kirks around this world. You feel me? So his lifelong mission, it seemed like, was he was going around promoting this type of ideology, this type of thinking. So yes, it is a problem, even though he's not here anymore, because it doesn't just stop with him. Let's get that clear, right? He's not the only person who is thinking this way. To touch a little more, by the way, on some of the things that he was saying that just was inaccurate, you know, trying to promote this whole ideology that all of the mass shootings within the last 10 years have been carried out by trans people. It's just ridiculous, because that's not true. It's not true. Now, although the last well-known school shooting that we know that happened in Minneapolis was carried out by Robert Westman, who was reported to be a trans person, according to the Violence Project, which they have data records going all the way back to 1966, less than 1% of mass shootings have been committed by transgender individuals. So overall, you know, the records are showing that mass shootings, mass killings are mostly carried out by straight men, and the transgender community is pretty much underrepresented in that area. You know, it's not a high number, basically. So that would mean that he was lying. You know, it's baseless. Yeah. Gotta ask yourself why, but when you go back and you listen to a lot of what he said, you know, he lives his life every day as a capitalist, yada, 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 then you can put two and two together. But what is known now, right? Updates are coming in. 2 people were detained shortly after the shooting, but both were released once investigators concluded that they were not connected to the crime. Law enforcement has released photos and surveillance images of a person of interest, reported by ABC News. So just a person of interest. They believe the shooter is a college-aged male who blended in with the crowd at Utah Valley University and fired a single high-powered bolt-action rifle from the rooftop about 200 yards away, as we discussed. The weapon has been recovered from a wooded area near the campus and now is being analyzed. Forensic footwear impressions, forearm prints are also being checked as we speak. And this is being reported by The Guardian. And there are some conflicting things going on. So I just want to clear up that there has been no confirmed suspect in custody. So there's no confirmed suspect in custody. All arrests so far have either been released or ruled out. The identity of the person of interest is not yet known publicly, which is why, of course, they put out the information. They are asking for the public's help. So the investigation is active. Authorities have, pieces to look over. They have a person of interest. So this is where we are right now with the killing of Charlie Kirk, guys. I just thought it was important to come up here and talk about, because what he stood for and some of the things he said, they are embedded historical ways of thinking, right? This is a system. And y'all, if we don't continue to combat the systematic racism, combat the systematic oppression, combat these ways of thinking, we will continuously have increased violence towards oppressed groups. So again, it's unfortunate that someone had to lose their life in this way. You know, everything he said aside, he had a family. So I have about, the littlest amount of sympathy that I can gather for them. But although I'm not celebrating, I'm not mourning. And that is an honest statement. And I think that's how a lot of people feel, although I'm not celebrating because, who has time to celebrate death when in 2025, we just trying to get by and live through all of the bullshit that we got going on from the administration. So nobody has time to celebrate death, but also nobody has time to celebrate someone who said the things that he said, right? You might have felt directly impacted or directly offended by some of the things that he said. And again, it's just bigger than it's bigger than what he said too. It's the systematic movement that we're seeing now of baseless lies and inhumane disrespect towards oppressed people. No one owns this. You feel me? No one owns what happened yesterday. I forgot who made the comment. I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to come back to y'all with it. But I heard a comment from a representative saying that the Democrats own what happened to Charlie Kirk. That is some crazy, crazy bullshit to say, considering that he said that sometimes people need to die for the sake of the Second Amendment. If you ask me, he set the stage for this divide from the problematic ways of thinking and the problematic statements that he's made. He set the stage for this. So I don't think any one particular group owns this. Not at all. And it's a blatant example of the conquer and divide attempt that the Trump administration is trying to put out there. Conquer and divide. That's all it is. Yep. But anyway, what is the moral of the story here? After everything we've covered today, well, at the end of the day, the moral isn't just about Charlie Kirk. It's about us, how we argue, how we disagree, and whether we can do it without bullets flying. Because if we can't, then the death of one polarizing figure might just be the warning shot for us all. I want you guys to keep that in mind. And I'm going to thank you so much for joining me today at the Zay Moore Podcast. And until next time, peace.